Hajin stood near the wide window of the council station, watching ships drift past like silver fish in dark water. Behind her, alien delegates filled the grand hall with their strange voices and stranger bodies. Some walked on four legs, others floated in clear tanks of green liquid. She wore a simple black dress that felt wrong on her body. She was used to uniforms and boots, not silk and soft shoes. Her husband's son moved through the crowd with careful steps. He bowed to a tall creature covered in blue scales. He smiled at a floating brain inside a glass bubble. Everyone thought Sun was weak because he spoke quietly and never raised his voice. Hajin knew better. She had seen him plan war games at the military academy where they met. His quiet voice gave orders that moved armies. 3 years ago, she left the Earth Defense Force to marry him. Her friends thought she was crazy. "You're the best combat instructor we have," they said. "Why waste your life at boring parties?" But Hajin understood something they did not. The galaxy needed warriors, yes, but it also needed warriors who knew when not to fight. A group of officers entered the hall. They were tall and red, with 4 arms and faces like angry cats. They laughed too loud and pushed smaller aliens out of their way. Their commander, Han, wore armor covered in kill marks. Each mark represented a ship he had destroyed, a planet he had conquered. Han walked straight to Sun. "Human ambassador," he said, his voice like grinding metal. "My empire has decided to be generous. We will protect your weak colonies. You will give us control of your ships and weapons. In return, we will let your people live." Sun looked up at the massive alien. He did not step back. He did not look away. "That is very kind," he said softly. "But Earth must discuss this offer with our government. These decisions take time." Han laughed. "You have 30 days, then we take what we want." He turned and walked away, his officers following like red shadows. Other aliens whispered. They who looked like walking stick insects made of crystal clicked their mandibles in concern. The round and covered in shells pulled their eye stalks into their bodies. The swimming in their water tanks said nothing at all. Everyone knew what this meant. The Empire had crushed 12 other species in the last 50 years. Humans would be number 13. That night, Hajin and Sun returned to their quarters. The rooms were small but comfortable, with earth plants growing in pots and pictures of home on the walls. Sun removed his formal robes and sat at his desk. He pulled up star charts and reports on his screen. "They think we're soft," Hajin said, standing behind him. "Let them think that," Sun replied, his fingers moving across the screen. "I've been here 2 years. I know where every base is located. I know how they move their fleets. I know which of their client species hate them." He looked up at her. "They make one big mistake. They think because we talk about peace, we forgot how to make war." Hajin put her hand on his shoulder. "You want me to contact Sung?" "Already done. Admiral Youngmi is moving the fleets into position now, but we need to give diplomacy one more chance. Real chance, not just theater." "Why?" Hajin asked. "You know they won't agree to real peace." Sun turned in his chair. "Because 20 other species are watching us. If we attack first, we're just another aggressive species. If we defend ourselves after trying peace, we're something different." Hajin understood. This was why she married him. He thought about the next 100 moves while everyone else worried about the next one. The days passed slowly. Sun attended council meetings where nothing was decided. They made more threats. They moved warships to human borders. They destroyed a small mining station near the Tau system, killing 300 human workers. The council called it an unfortunate accident. Hajin attended the memorial service on the station. 300 names scrolled across a screen while a choir sang songs of Earth. She recognized some names. Young people who went to the colonies to build new lives. Old people who wanted to see the stars before they died. Children born in space who never saw Earth's sky. All dead because they wanted to prove humans were weak. Her hand moved to her waist where her sword used to hang. For 3 years she had not worn it. For 3 years she had played the role of diplomat's wife, smiling at parties and making small talk, but she felt the weight of it in her memory. The blade her grandmother carried in the Unification Wars, the blade her mother carried during the colony expansion, the blade waiting in a locked case in her quarters. That evening there was another formal reception. Hajin wore a red dress that reminded her of blood. Sun wore his formal robes with the Earth symbol on his chest. They moved through the crowd together, a quiet man and his quiet wife. 3 officers approached them. They had been drinking something that smelled like burning plastic. "The human female," one said, leaning close to Hajin. "Does she know how to do anything besides stand and look pretty?" Another officer laughed. "Human females are small, soft, good for making bobbies, nothing else." The third officer poked Hajin in the shoulder with one of his 4 hands. "Bet she would cry if we threatened her. Bet her husband would beg." Hajin felt rage rise in her chest like hot fire. Her muscles remembered training. Her hands remembered holding weapons. She could break the first officer's arm before the others could react. She could strike the second officer's throat and crush his windpipe. She could. Across the room, Sun met her eyes. He did not shake his head. He did not signal. He simply looked at her with those quiet, knowing eyes. The look said everything. Not yet. Soon. Wait. Hajin smiled at the officers. "I know how to do many things," she said sweetly, "but the most important thing I know is patience." The officers laughed again and walked away. Other aliens had seen the exchange. Some looked embarrassed. Some looked away. The delegate, Eth, approached Hajin after the officers left. "I apologize for their behavior," Eth said, her crystal body reflecting light in rainbow colors. "They have no respect for others." "It's fine," Hajin said. "Words are just air moving. They mean nothing." But inside, Hajin was counting days. 22 days until the ultimatum ended. 22 days until the galaxy learned what humans really were. That night, Sun received an encrypted message from Earth. He read it twice, then looked at Hajin. "It's time," he said. "Youngmi asks if you're willing to serve again." Hajin walked to the locked case on their wall. Inside was her sword, wrapped in silk. The blade was 40 centimeters long, sharp enough to cut through steel like paper. Monomolecular edge technology, humanity's gift to ancient weapons. She picked it up and felt its weight. It felt like coming home. "Tell the Admiral I'm ready," Hajin said. "Tell her we're all ready." Sun nodded. He looked at his wife holding her sword and he smiled. Not a diplomat's smile, a warrior's smile. "They think they know us. They'll learn the truth soon enough." Outside the window, stars burned in the darkness. Somewhere out there, human warships waited in the empty spaces between systems. Somewhere out there, humanity prepared for war. And on the council station, a quiet man and his warrior wife made ready to show the galaxy what Earth was made of. They attacked on day 27. They did not wait for the deadline. They came with 200 warships, more firepower than any human had seen before. Their fleet emerged from jump space near 4 human colonies, weapons already charging. Sun was in a council meeting when the alarm started. Red lights flashed. Screens showed the fleet opening fire on the colony of New Sol. 5 million humans lived there, farming and building under a yellow sun far from Earth. "This is an outrage," the delegate Eth said, her crystal body turning dark with distress. "The ultimatum had not expired. This is against all council laws." Han appeared on the main screen, his red face twisted in a cruel smile. "Laws are for the strong to enforce. Humans are not strong. Watch as we demonstrate this truth." Behind him, his officers cheered. The screen showed missiles hitting New Sol's orbital defense platforms. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. Human ships rose from the planet to defend their home, small patrol boats against massive destroyers. It looked like birds fighting dragons. Sun stood up. His quiet voice somehow carried across the entire chamber. "I gave peace every chance. My wife asked me to try one last time. I did." He looked directly at Han on the screen. Now I will honor her wisdom instead of her hope. He touched his communicator. Admiral Youngmi, execute Plan Thunder. Space around New Seoul suddenly filled with new signals. Human warships emerged from jump space, appearing like ghosts becoming solid. Not 1 or 2 ships, not 10 or 20. 400 warships, every combat vessel Earth had built in secret over the last 10 years. The council chamber went silent. Even Han stopped smiling. Ha-Jin was already moving. She had left the reception hours ago, changing into her Defense Force uniform. Black and gray, designed for combat, not ceremony. Her sword hung at her side in its traditional position. She ran through the station corridors to the military docking bay where a shuttle waited. Commander Ha-Jin, the pilot said, saluting. She was young, maybe 20, with her hair cut short and determination in her eyes. I'm Ensign Bora. Orders are to get you to the immediately. Then let's fly, Ha-Jin said, strapping into the co-pilot seat. The shuttle launched from the station and accelerated toward the human flagship. Through the window, Ha-Jin could see the battle beginning. Human ships moved different from other species. They did not stay at safe distances, firing missiles from far away. They drove straight at the enemy, weapons blazing, shields forward. Crazy, Bora whispered. We're fighting at ranges where one good hit kills both ships. That's the point, Ha-Jin said. Humans learned war on one planet for 10,000 years. We fought with swords before we had guns, with rocks before we had swords. We understand something the galaxy forgot. Sometimes you have to get close enough to see your enemy's eyes. There was massive, a carrier ship holding 60 fighters and a crew of 2,000. Ha-Jin's shuttle docked in the main bay. She ran through corridors filled with running crew members until she reached the bridge. Admiral Youngmi stood at the command station, a stern woman with gray hair and scars on her hands from the AI crisis 30 years ago. She looked at Ha-Jin and nodded once. Good, you're here. Take station at Tactical Communications. Ha-Jin sat at her station and pulled up the battle displays. 400 human ships versus 200 warships. The numbers looked good, but ships were bigger, with heavier armor and more powerful weapons. This would not be easy. All ships, Youngmi said into the fleet channel. Remember your training, fast, close, precise. We don't have the metal to waste on long fights. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and move on. The human fleet split into 20 groups, each group attacking a different section of the formation. Ha-Jin watched her screens as the first contact happened. A human destroyer drove straight at a battle cruiser. The ship opened fire, its plasma cannons tearing through space. The shields held for 3 seconds, then collapsed. But they did not turn away. It drove closer, so close Ha-Jin could see both ships on the same camera angle. They fired its main weapon, a cutting beam based on monomolecular blade technology. The beam hit the ship's side and sliced through its armor like a knife through fruit. The ship tried to turn, but it was too slow. They circled it like a shark, firing the cutting beam again and again. Within 30 seconds, the massive battlecruiser was drifting, dead in space, its hull cut into pieces. All across the battle space, the same thing happened. Human ships sacrificed protection for speed and maneuverability. They got close, too close for them to track properly. They used weapons designed to cut and tear, not just blow holes. They moved like fighters in a ring, not ships in space. Incoming communication, the communications officer said. It's Han. He wants to talk to Commander Ha-Jin. Youngmi looked at Ha-Jin. Your show, take it. Ha-Jin switched her station to main display. Han's face filled the screen, and now he was not smiling. Behind him, his command center was filled with smoke and flashing alarms. You, he growled. The diplomat's wife. You did this. I did nothing, Ha-Jin said calmly. I simply put on the uniform I wore before I met my husband. This is who I always was. You just assumed I was something else. Your ships fight like madness, Han said. No one fights at these ranges, it's suicide. Hajin drew her sword, holding it so Han could see the blade in the light. This sword belonged to my grandmother. She carried it in the Unification Wars when humans fought humans. This was forged in fire. So was I, so was every human you're fighting today. She stood up, holding the sword in traditional guard position. Around the bridge, her crew continued their work, but every human there understood the symbol. This was not just a battle. This was a statement. We came to the galaxy hopping for peace, Hajin said, her voice steady and strong. We built colonies to grow food and make art. We sent diplomats like my husband to talk and find common ground. We wanted friendship. She pointed the sword at the screen. But we are the species that climbed from caves to stars without anyone's permission. We survived ice ages and plagues. We fought 10,000 years of wars and learned every lesson written in blood. We wanted peace. But we never forgot how to make war. Han opened his mouth to respond, but an explosion rocked his ship. The screen went dark. His command ship is breaking apart, the sensor officer reported. 3 of our destroyers hit it with cutting beams simultaneously. The battle continued for 8 more hours. When it ended, 150 ships were destroyed or drifting without power. The other 50 retreated into jump space, running back to their empire. Human losses were 23 ships, most destroyed while making ramming attacks when their weapons failed. Hajin stood on the bridge, still holding her sword. Her uniform was soaked with sweat. Her hands shook with exhaustion, but she felt alive in a way she had not felt for 3 years. All ships hold position, Youngmi ordered. Begin rescue operations for survivors, theirs and ours. Later, Hajin received a message from the council station. Sun's face appeared on her personal screen. He looked tired but proud. The council is calling an emergency session. They are already asking for peace talks. Tell them we'll talk, Hajin said, after we're done here. Sun smiled. I married a warrior. The galaxy is about to remember what that means. Hajin looked down at her sword. The blade was clean, unused in this battle, but its presence had been enough. Sometimes just drawing the sword was enough to change everything. The council chamber had never been so crowded. Every species sent representatives, even those who usually ignored council meetings. They all wanted to see what humans would do next. Hajin stood beside Sun at the human delegation's platform. She wore her full military dress uniform with her sword at her side. He wore his diplomatic robes. Together, they looked like 2 sides of one coin. Han appeared on screen from a medical station. His armor was burned, one of his 4 arms was missing, but he was alive. Humans, he said, and his voice held something new, not fear exactly, but respect. The Empire requests peace negotiations. Sun stepped forward. We accept, under the following conditions: immediate withdrawal from all human territory, reparations for damages and lives lost, and acknowledgement that Earth and its colonies are sovereign under Council law. The delegate Eth stepped forward. The Council supports these terms, but we must understand. How did humans become so formidable? You joined the Council only 20 years ago. You have 12 colony worlds, 8 billion population. You should not have been able to defeat the Empire. A new face appeared on the screens, an elderly with darker crystal coloring. I am Scholar N. I have studied Earth history for the past 10 days since the battle ended. I believe I can answer. The scholar pulled up images of Earth. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. They chased prey for hours, days, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. This shaped their psychology. They do not give up. More images appeared, showing human wars. Humans have been at war continuously for their entire recorded history. 10,000 years of conflict. Every human alive is descended from survivors of war. N showed more data. Other council species evolved on planets with easy resources, or they evolved slowly, or they reached space before developing advanced warfare. Humans reached nuclear weapons before they left their planet. They fought wars that killed millions while still bound to one world. They learned lessons in blood that we learned across star systems. The scholar looked directly at the camera. Humans are not stronger than us, they are not smarter, they are not more advanced, but they are the only species in known space that treats war as a science to be studied and art to be perfected. Every human child learns military history, every human colony has defenses, every human ship can become a weapon. And paused. They hoped for peace, but they planned for war. This is what makes them unique. Silence filled the council chamber. Finally, the representative spoke, his shell rattling. Should we fear humans? Hajin stepped forward. You should fear any species that forgets peace. You should fear any species that thinks only war matters. She touched her sword. But you should also understand that we will defend ourselves. We will defend our allies. We came to the stars with open hands, but we brought our swords because we studied history. Sun added, Earth proposes new council protocols. Species have the right to self-defense. Military alliances for mutual protection should be recognized. Acts of aggression should have immediate consequences, not debates that last years. Over the next weeks, the council voted. Sun's proposals passed with strong support. 3 smaller species, the requested mutual defense treaties with Earth. Admiral Youngmi was promoted to general and given command of the new Galactic Defense Initiative. Hajin became director of the new Galactic Defense Academy. Her first class included not just humans, but students from 7 different species. Young who wanted to learn human tactics, soldiers who studied human history, even 2 who had fought at New Seoul and wanted to understand how they lost. On the first day of class, Hajin stood before her students in the training hall. She wore her instructor uniform and her sword. I am Commander Hajin. I fought in 3 campaigns before I left the service. I married a diplomat and spent 3 years at parties, smiling and making small talk. I drew my sword again when war came. She walked between the students. You're here to learn how humans fight, but that's not the most important lesson. The most important lesson is why we fight. We fight to protect. We fight to defend. We fight so others don't have to. She stopped and looked at all of them. And we prepare for war so we can have peace. If you understand nothing else, understand that. A student raised a crystal hand. Commander, why did you marry a diplomat if you are a warrior? Hajin smiled. Because I learned that the strongest warriors know when not to fight. My husband is quiet, yes, but his mind is the sharpest weapon I know. He defeated the before a single shot was fired. He gathered intelligence. He built alliances. He positioned our forces, all while smiling at parties and bowing to delegates. She touched her sword. I can kill with this blade, but Sun can save thousands by knowing when to talk and when to draw. That's why I married him. That evening, Hajin and Sun met in their quarters on the council station. She was exhausted from the first day of training. He was tired from negotiating trade agreements with but they sat together by the window, watching stars. The galaxy has changed, Sun said, because you drew your sword. No, Hajin replied. The galaxy changed because you knew when to let me draw it. Wisdom and strength together, that's what changes worlds. They sat in comfortable silence, a quiet man and his warrior wife, watching the future unfold among the stars. 2 years passed like water flowing downhill, steady and inevitable. The Galactic Council barely resembled its former self. Where once debates dragged for months and decisions meant nothing, now agreements had teeth. Species honored their treaties or faced real consequences. Hajin's Defense Academy graduated its 3rd class. The ceremony was held in a new facility built on the moon of New Seoul, the colony that had attacked. Families traveled from all over known space to watch their children receive diplomas. Humans stood next to. Even 3 cadets graduated, their red faces solemn as they swore oaths to defend the innocent. Hajin gave the graduation speech wearing her dress uniform. Her sword hung at her side, polished until it gleamed like silver water. 2 years ago, she said to the assembled crowd, The galaxy thought humans were weak. They thought we were soft. They learned otherwise. She paused, looking at the young faces before her. But strength without wisdom is just destruction. Wisdom without strength is just words. You have learned both here. You have trained your bodies and your minds. Now go into the galaxy and show others what real strength looks like. After the ceremony, a young cadet named On approached her. He moved stiffly, still uncomfortable in the presence of the human who had threatened his people's commander. "Director Ha-Jin," he said, his voice quiet. "May I ask a question?" "Of course," Ha-Jin said. "Do you hate us, the—" Ha-Jin considered the question carefully. "I hate what your empire did. I hate that 300 people died in that mining station. I hate that we had to fight at all." She looked at the young soldier. "But I don't hate you. You weren't at New Seoul. You chose to come here and learn a better way. That took courage." On touched his chest in the gesture of respect. "My father was an officer under Commander Han. He died in the battle. Before he died, he sent me a message. He said, 'The humans won because they understood war better than we did. Learn from them so others don't die like I am dying.'" The young looked down. "I am here because of his final wish." "Then honor his wish by being better than he was," Ha-Jin said gently. "Learn not just how to fight, but why to fight. That's what separates soldiers from warriors." That evening, Ha-Jin returned to the quarters she shared with Sun on the council station. Their home had changed. A small room had been added, painted in soft colors with stars on the ceiling. In a small bed, their daughter Sora slept peacefully. She was 1 year old, with her mother's eyes and her father's quiet intensity. Sun sat at his desk, reviewing documents for tomorrow's council session. He was chief negotiator now, the person every species called when disputes arose. "How was graduation?" he asked without looking up. "Good, 37 new defenders for the galaxy." Ha-Jin walked to Sora's room and looked at her daughter. "Do you think she'll have to fight?" Sun joined her at the door. "I hope not, but if she does, she'll know how, and more importantly, she'll know why." He put his arm around Ha-Jin's waist. "The Empire is fracturing. 5 client species have declared independence and requested human protection. The Council is actually enforcing its laws now. Things are better." "But not perfect," Ha-Jin said. "Nothing is ever perfect," Sun smiled. "But we're building something good, something that lasts." The next day, Sun attended a special council session. The main screen showed something unusual, a signal from deep space, far beyond any known civilization. It pulsed with complex mathematical patterns. Scholar N presented the analysis. "This signal has been transmitting for at least 300 years. We only discovered it because our deep space sensors improved after the human conflict prompted technology sharing. The signal originates from a star system 15,000 light-years from here." "What does it say?" the representative asked. "We don't know yet, but the signal's complexity suggests advanced intelligence, possibly more advanced than any council species." The council chamber filled with worried whispers. The representative floated forward in her water tank. "Should we respond?" Arguments broke out immediately. The wanted to study more, the wanted to ignore it. The representatives urged caution. Everyone had opinions, but no one had answers. Sun raised his hand for silence. "The council should send a contact mission, a ship with diplomats, scientists, and defensive capabilities. We approach with caution but also with hope. This is what the council should do, reach out to new species while prepared for any outcome." After hours of debate, the council agreed. They asked Sun to lead the diplomatic team. They asked Ha-Jin to command the military escort. Together, a quiet diplomat and his warrior wife would make first contact with an unknown civilization. That night, they discussed it in their quarters while Sora played with blocks on the floor. "It could be dangerous," Ha-Jin said. "We know nothing about them." "That's why they want us both," Sun replied. "We represent what humanity taught the galaxy, hope backed by strength." Hajin picked up Sora, who giggled and grabbed at her mother's hair. What about her? My mother will care for her, Sun said. Hajin's mother and a retired admiral lived on the council station. She had offered immediately when she heard about the mission. Sora will be safe. When do we leave? Hajin asked. 3 months, time to prepare the ship and crew. The ship was called the Bridge, a new design combining human and technology. It had diplomatic facilities, scientific laboratories, and defense systems that would make a battleship jealous. The crew of 300 included members from 8 species. Hajin trained the military contingent daily. They practiced boarding actions, defended against simulated attacks, and learned to work together despite different biologies. A soldier moved differently than a human, but Hajin taught them to use those differences as strengths. Sun assembled his diplomatic team. He chose young ambassadors, people who grew up after the conflict. They understood the new galaxy, where strength and wisdom worked together. The day before departure, Hajin's mother brought Sora to the ship. The old admiral looked at the bridge with professional appreciation. Good design, redundant systems, multiple escape routes. You'll come back. Promise to take care of her, Hajin said, holding Sora close. She's my granddaughter, of course I'll take care of her, one smiled. Besides, she needs to hear stories about her mother's adventures. Sora grabbed Hajin's sword hilt, her small fingers wrapping around the handle. Hajin gently removed her hand. Someday, if you want, this will be yours, but I hope you only need to display it, never draw it in anger. The departure ceremony was small. Hajin and Sun stood on the bridge's main deck, looking out at the council station through the massive windows. Behind them, crew members prepared for jump. Ready? Sun asked. Hajin touched her sword. Always. The bridge entered jump space, leaving known space behind. Their journey would take 6 months at maximum speed. 6 months to reach a civilization that might be friendly, hostile, or something humans had never imagined. On the 3rd week of travel, Sun and Hajin sat in their private quarters. The room was simple but comfortable, with pictures of Sora on the walls and earth plants growing in small pots. Do you remember, Sun said, when we first met at the academy? Hajin smiled. You were teaching strategy theory. I thought you were boring. And I thought you were reckless. You kept arguing that direct action solved problems faster than planning. I still believe that sometimes, Hajin said, but you taught me that the best victories are won before the fighting starts. Sun reached over and took her hand. And you taught me that sometimes you have to be willing to draw the sword for words to have meaning. They sat quietly, 2 people who had changed a galaxy by understanding each other. The months passed. The crew worked smoothly. Humans and even 2 operated the bridge like a single organism. Hajin's training paid off. Sun's diplomatic preparations ensured everyone understood the mission. Finally, they arrived at the target system. 5 planets orbited a blue star. Sensors showed massive structures in orbit around the 3rd planet. Not ships, but stations larger than anything the Council had built. Energy readings suggested technology far beyond known science. Broadcast the greeting message, Sun ordered. The message went out in every language the Council knew, plus mathematical sequences that any advanced species should understand. It said simply, "We are explorers from the Galactic Council. We come in peace but are prepared to defend ourselves. We wish to talk." They waited. Minutes became hours. Hours became days. No response came. Maybe they're extinct, a communications officer suggested. These structures could be ancient. Then, on the 7th day, the screen lit up with a response, but not in any known language. Pure mathematics, equations that described physics in ways the Council had never seen. Scholar N, part of the scientific team, worked frantically to decode it. After 2 hours, he succeeded. "It's an invitation," he said, his crystal body glowing with excitement. They want us to approach the third planet. Sun looked at Ha-Jin. She nodded. All defensive systems online, she ordered, but weapons stay cold unless they fire first. The bridge moved slowly toward the third planet. As they approached, they saw wonders. The massive orbital structures were not stations but cities. Millions, maybe billions of beings lived in space, building and growing in the darkness between worlds. A ship approached them. It was organic, like a living creature made of light. It pulsed with colors humans had no names for. A figure appeared on their screen. It looked vaguely humanoid but made of energy rather than matter. When it spoke, translation software barely kept up. We have watched the Council for 300 years. We chose isolation because we saw species fight over resources we left behind long ago. Sun stepped forward. I am Sun, human diplomat. Why contact us now? The being shimmered. Because something changed. We monitored your conflict with we saw a species teach others to balance strength with wisdom. We saw hope. The being looked at Ha-Jin. And we saw a warrior who knows when to draw her sword and when to keep it sheathed. Ha-Jin felt strange, seeing herself through such alien eyes. What do you want from us? Nothing. We offer knowledge, we offer friendship, but only if you prove you have truly learned. The galaxy is larger than you know. Threats exist beyond your borders, though we're nothing. True dangers wait in the dark spaces. The being gestured, and the screens filled with images. Vast machines consuming stars, creatures that lived in jump space itself, empires that made the look like children playing with toys. The Council must grow stronger, they said, not through conquest but through unity. Humans began this change. Now you must continue it. Sun and Ha-Jin looked at each other. This was bigger than they had imagined. Not just first contact, but a warning about the future. We accept your offer of knowledge, Sun said carefully, and we will carry your warning back to the Council. The being brightened. Good, we will teach you, but remember, strength without wisdom is destruction. Wisdom without strength is meaningless. You have shown both. Now show the galaxy what balance truly means. Over the next weeks, they shared technology and information. They taught the bridge's crew about threats in deep space. They explained physics the Council had never understood. But they also taught philosophy, the importance of growing together rather than competing for dominance. Finally, the time came to leave. The bridge's storage was full of data, enough to keep Council scientists busy for years. Sun and Ha-Jin stood on the bridge one last time, watching the orbital cities. We changed the galaxy once, Ha-Jin said. Now we have to do it again. Together, Sun replied, always together. The bridge jumped back toward Council space, carrying knowledge and hope and warning. Behind them, they watched with ancient eyes, wondering if this young species and their allies could survive what was coming. In their quarters, Ha-Jin looked at a picture of Sora. I hope we're building something good for her. Sun put his arm around her shoulders. We're building what we know, hope backed by strength, wisdom balanced with action. She'll inherit a galaxy that's learning these lessons. Ha-Jin touched her sword, still hanging at her side. This blade has been in my family for 6 generations. My grandmother, my mother, me. Maybe Sora will only need to hang it on her wall and remember why it exists. Maybe, Sun said. But if she needs to draw it, she'll know why, just like her mother taught the galaxy. The bridge flew through jump space, carrying 2 people who had changed everything. A quiet diplomat and his warrior wife, partners in every way, showing the galaxy what humans really meant when they said they came in peace. They had drawn the sword, and the galaxy changed, but now they knew the work was not finished. New threats waited, new challenges would come, but humanity and its allies would face them together, balanced and strong and wise. This was the future Ha-Jin and Sun had built. Not perfect, but better. Not finished, but growing. And in the end, that was all anyone could ask for. A galaxy learning to be better than it was, one day at a time, one choice at a time, one drawn sword at a time. The stars waited, so did they.